Hey guys, welcome to the N3P Performance Podcast here with Brian Carter and Jen, who's standing behind the camera making me laugh right now. I'm actually sitting next to a giant hole in the floor that we are working on fixing, but my chair is like 3 inches from the hole. It's almost stepped in it a few times today, so there's that. So we're going to talk a little bit today about what is health and what does that mean when we're talking about fitness. So we've always toyed around this idea, or I've been talking about this idea for years now, and people that I look up to have been talking about this for years and what this means. When we're talking about health, we're not talking performance. If we're talking performance, like people at the CrossFit Games, and not even just the CrossFit Games, but just like people and athletes who are at the peak of their sport and the peak of their ability, we're not saying those people are healthy. They're not training to live forever, right? If we had a spectrum, one side is health. The complete opposite side is going to be performance and peak performance and sickness. So when we're taking someone, and we'll just stay within the realm of CrossFit, when we're taking someone who wants to go as far as they can with performance, we want to bring them to that tip of that cliff and just kind of flirt with it a little bit. And just being like, oh, how far can we go? Bring it back. There we go. Bring it back. There we're going to be the maximum physical potential that they can express without pushing them over. And when I mean push them over, like injury, burnout, like sickness, disease, all that kind of stuff. Those are the kind of things that we're flirting with. And there's a price to pay later in life that we'll see. CrossFit's still super young, and it'll be interesting to see kind of like the people that are at the top, how long can you stay at the top for? And what does that look like for your own health and longevity, 20 years from now, 30 years from now? Like, what are the top CrossFit Games athletes right now going to be like when they're 65, right? Are they going to be totally fine? You can look at like weightlifters. Like, I had a weightlifting coach for years. I believe he's now in his mid 60s, and I just saw a video of him squat cleaning, I think like 75 kilos in his basement. Like he looked great. Like it's not anywhere near the weight that he used to lift, obviously, and you can't expect that at some point. And it's different for everybody. We just start regressing, and then we have to work just as hard to not regress as we did to get to where we were in the first place, maybe even harder. And we just slow the inevitability of just not being able to maintain, your strength numbers or your output or anything like that, right? Like, we're not going to have people, myself even, let's just say 20 years from now, I'm not going to be able to still kick up and do, just get the same score on Nate that I can right now. That's just not feasible. That's just not how it works. But we're still so young in the sport that we don't know exactly what's going to happen. If someone was able to maintain high level performance, and you just can't stay over on that side of the spectrum your whole life and not expect that there's going to be, some serious repercussions and consequences for that. So it becomes a matter of, how good can you be, but how good can you stay at the top? Is it 1 year? Is it 5 years? Is it 10 years? Like, what are, how many years are we going to see, like Tia Toomey sitting on top of the women's in the CrossFit Games? Like, is it going to be her body that gives out first, or is it going to be her head? Right? Like, there's a distinct difference in like, hey, my body feels great, but my mind is done. Right? So that's even more important piece of the puzzle is how long can you do it, but how long do you want to do it for? And what does that look like? Like, are you going to start a family? Are you getting married? Do you own a business? Like, are you traveling lots? Like, all of these things, add into that stress that you can handle. And like, there's only so much a person can handle, and everyone's different in what they can handle and take on and still perform. But you can't maintain, high level peak top performance and, run 3 businesses, like have 3 kids. Like, can you do that like at the top levels? Like, no, I don't think you can. I don't think when you look at the people who have won the CrossFit Games in the past, like that those aren't the scenarios that come up when you read about what their lives are like. Like they're in the gym every day for 4, 6 more hours. I mean, more hours than I even know, practicing their craft and making it the best possible. And even outside of the gym, like other people are taking on roles and responsibilities and doing tasks so they don't have to, that doesn't take up headspace. It doesn't take up stress, so that they're able to have more physical stress and focus more on training and what they need to do to be successful and win. When you have to do all of those things on your own and still manage your training, run your business, take care of your kids, like that is a lot. That is a lot to handle. It's a lot to take on. Or you got your job and you're working 12 hours shifts, like 60 plus hours a week, anything like that. And you're like, yeah, I'm still going to train 2 hours a day. That's awesome. And you can be very successful doing that. But I'm like, imagine if you didn't have to do that. Like, where is your max physical potential at now that we've removed that stress from you? Right? So that's just all things to consider. And I don't know if people always think about that. It's like, where's that health line? Like, would your body be healthier? Would you still have that, nagging shoulder injury if your 100% goal was to just be healthy? Like, maybe I'm just going to eat really good and go for some long walks and I can be healthy. Like, what's your definition of healthy? Should I just be riding my bike? Should I just be like coasting down a hill and, eating lots of vegetables? Like, that's healthy. Like, am I going to have just like a nice balanced diet and, do some moderate strength training? Like, at what point where is health to you on that spectrum, and what are you happy with and what are you happy doing? And that's gonna, I always tell people, I'm just like, when we talk and you meet a new client, you consult with them, it's like, what do you want? Like, and I'm like, I don't sugarcoat it. I'm like, hey, you want to be really good? You want to compete? Okay, well, this is going to happen. We can do all of these things, and you do all of these things on your end. You got to eat, sleep, you got to put in the work here. Most people are willing to put in the work physically in the gym, but it's the lifestyle factors outside of that they can get hung up on, or that make it hard for them to be able to get to the gym as much as they need to be, depending on who they are and what they want to do. So all things considered, when we just talk about in lamest terms, like peak performance is associated, we see like the fame, the glamour and all that, but it's also like the closest to sickness, to the opposite of health, right? So if we want to live a long time, we're probably not trying to win the CrossFit Games. So just, we just want to think about and talk about with your client, like, be sure you know what they want and be straight up and upfront with them, being like, this is doable. This is where you're going to be. This is possibly the risk that you're going to run. Like, you can't, I'm not saying you're laying out all these things for them, but just being like, hey, like, we're going to do this, but just like, don't kid yourself. Like, like, yes, you look healthy, you are a very fit individual. And the more we push, the further we're getting away from true health. So as far as like health goes, and performance, I think it's only fair that the client knows what the difference between those two pieces are: health, performance, and everything that goes in between, and how that's going to be relevant and affect them in their life today and then also moving forward. Thanks for tuning in, guys.